two, one. Welcome back to the BRYAN TANN Show. It is your host, BRYAN TANN, the long anticipated guest of mine, my vintage counterpart, I shall say.
That's a good. That's. I like that. I have not heard that vintage counterpart. I'll
The
take it.
the I am
The
new and
OG.
improved. Some people don't know. I'm a junior. I'm a BRYAN TANN junior, and
Yes, you
that
are.
is the senior.
Yep.
I don't know
The
if you
the,
can
the
tell.
OG. The OG.
The OG. I don't know if you can tell. I promptly can't, but that's a son thing.
Mm.
But I could see it in the facial hair.
I see it in the face. Period. You look just like me, there, kid. You look
But
just like me. Yeah.
this is my dad. I had him on the podcast. We recorded it on Monday. Then I promptly lost the footage. Rest in peace,
Uh,
old
you, you,
footage.
you, you gotta love technology, man.
And
You
gotta
gotta
love
love it. Gotta
technology.
love it.
But we have him on. We
Yep.
have him on
Back
the
again. Back
podcast, dude.
again. Back again. Back again. All right. All right.
So
Take two.
take two. We covered a few things on the podcast. We're not going to get too deep dive into it, but I asked some questions that I really liked that I want to kind of resurface. We talked about your podcast endeavors, your radio show endeavors, your love of movies,
Yeah.
and
We did
everything in
touch on a lot
between.
of that. Yeah, we went there. We went there. Absolutely. Hey, look, even when you were a kid, man, all when you were a little kid, I always said, "Dad's an open book. Answer whatever questions you have. I'll answer them age appropriate." And the all the anything else, when you're age ready, we'll take it to that next level. So it's all good, man. Fire away.
Yeah. So the big thing that you are infamous, not infamous. That's bad. You are famous for with my friends is that I used to brag about all the time a couple years back. My dad had a podcast. I
Yep.
would say, I don't know how your current endeavors are doing right now, but I would say that the Plotaholics was probably the most popular.
Oh yeah, the Plotaholics was an awesome endeavor, but that was also going on for a little while too.
Right,
What
yeah.
I've got going right now is it's so much fun. It's just in a different way because so a little bit of history. So the Plotaholics podcast was myself and a good buddy of mine, Shane Wilson. Shout out to Shane,
Shout out to
another
Shane.
a fellow author, and we did a podcast where we were both on a panel, and we realized that we had a lot in common. We have great chemistry, and we also had a huge love for movies. So, as one does around that time, we started doing a weekly podcast, and it's still up there wherever you get your podcasts. It's still on iHeart. It's still on Spotify. Wherever you get podcasts, it's on there. And it was amazing. We had an awesome format. It was like a long form discussion. And then we had a rating system for shots, you know, like one shot, zero shots. You didn't have to get drunk to watch the
Yeah, it was
movie,
basically
and all
however
the
many
way up to
shots.
5 shots.
It
Yep,
was.
however many shots you have to go through to get to the movie. And it was amazing. It was definitely a great time because Shane was very, very analytical and technical on writing terms and everything. Where me, I'm just a movie geek. I'm a walking encyclopedia of movies. If I've seen a movie like once, I'll probably remember it and be able to just quote dialogue from it. I've seen so many movies in my life. My brain should be like a movie library. My movie collection is so extensive that, just from the discs alone, if I watch one disc a day, I won't watch the same disc twice in 2 years.
I can confirm this. Whenever I go over to his house, he has at least two that I can remember of binders full of movies, and they're all bangers. They're all really good movies.
I'm up to four, and the fourth one is almost filled. I'm about to buy a fifth one.
Oh,
Yep.
So the man likes his
So
movies.
absolutely, absolutely. I mean, there's movies that people have probably forgotten that I still remember, and there's movies that are coming to light today that I remember seeing when they first came out. Um, like we're just coming off of Halloween. Look, Return to the Living Dead is probably one of the most
Such a good movie.
beloved zombie flicks, and I remember watching it when it first hit cable. It came out in 1985. It probably hit cable in 86. And I remember I had no business watching that movie,
This story,
but
dude.
watching it, I did. And I was terrified because I realized that I grew up near a cemetery that had a crematorium. So every time it rained, I thought that zombies were coming to get me. And I used to laugh and tell people that the reason why I got so strong in the chest was because I was this little like 5, 6, 7-year-old kid pushing the couch in front of the TV because I was afraid the zombies were coming. Um,
Such a good movie, by the way.
yeah, I showed you. Didn't I show you that movie the last
Yeah.
time you were here? Yeah,
It was the.
it
It was
was
the
the
time
last
before
summer
that.
you came.
It was the time
The
before
time
that.
before that. I thought, you know what? I was really worried that you were going to be scared of it, but you dealt with it pretty well.
I think it
I,
was one
I,
of those
I was impressed.
movies like Basket Case where I found it more comical than.
Because it's a black comedy. That's why. But I'm glad you brought up Basket Case. Not a
Dude,
lot of people know the movie Basket Case.
I bring
That's
it
one of
up.
my favorite film series.
I bring it up to. I've not found one single person other than you that knows about that movie.
That movie is so
It's
great.
so
So
funny.
for those that don't know, the film Basket Case is about a kid named Dwayne Bradley and his separated conjoined twin Bilal, who lives in a basket. And in the first movie, it's Dwayne and Bilal going to old New York City to hunt down the doctors that separated them. And then the second and third movies are them basically living in a house of other people, of other oddities, so to speak. Um, it's so deliciously bad. It's great. It's a great classic B flick that came out in like the first movie came out in like the early 80s, like I want to say 1981, I want to say. And then the other ones came out in like the mid to late 80s, but they're really a product of their time. I'm trying to think, what are some others? Oh my, there's just so many. I don't want to bring up any that might be problematic that come to mind because yeah.
Don't worry about it.
Um,
I wouldn't. I wouldn't
well,
worry
well, well,
about
there's
it.
some Well, there's some movies, some of those movies that came out back when I was a kid that they really are a product of their time. Like Revenge of the Nerds is a product of its time.
I heard
It
that
would
movie
not
was
fly today.
crazy. I heard some of the
Did I?
dudes
Did I
kids.
show? I have to show you Revenge of the Nerds when you come to visit. I don't
Definitely,
think I've.
because I remember we were
I
in the car
probably
one
should.
time.
Yeah.
You were watching. It was, I don't think it was a Watch Mojo, but it was a different movie analytics video about Revenge of the Nerds, and I remember hearing some of that stuff, and I'm like, "What, dude?
What?
This kid did what?"
Revenge of the Nerds is a film that could not be made today. But at the time, it was such a beloved film because it was, nerds versus jocks. And a lot of folks got their start in that film series. What's his like John Goodman, who was on, well, young folk, y'all youngins now will know him from he plays Dan Connor on the Connors. He was also on Roseanne, the parent show. He was also in what is the name of that movie? It's got with the dude, the Big Lebowski. He was also the Big Lebowski, and I'm trying to think. So, but I think that was probably the first film appearance of John Goodman.
Such a good
Um,
actor, by the way. Such a good
oh,
actor.
I love John Goodman. John Goodman is such a great actor, but he was like the stereotypical douchebag jock in that movie. Ted McGinley, who played Jefferson Darcy in Married with Children, he's in some other show now. I can't remember what it's called, but I've seen clips of it. And one of the funniest parts was, the neighbor Pam is arguing with the one woman, and Ted McGinley is pulling out, and he goes, "Hey, good morning, everybody. Good morning, Pam." And she goes, "Good morning." And his wife goes, No, good morning, Pam. We're mad at her. We don't like her." And he goes, "Oh, okay. Eat a dick, Pam." And just leaves. Dude, how many father-son dynamics do you all know of where the dad will just casually say, "Eat a dick, Pam," and laugh like a goofball with his kid?
Not,
Not
yeah, not. I mean, definitely you.
Yeah. Well, you also know better not to do all that. But then again, look, I'm not an idiot. I know that you say things off color. Look, I was your age once, forever ago. So you pretty much, I know what you do.
Yeah.
Long before existence was ever existence.
I mean,
but still,
I'm not gonna say that I don't say some out of pocket stuff like
I know you say out of pocket stuff.
but not on this show. We keep it.
Right.
I wouldn't say PG-13.
PG-13.
I wouldn't say I keep it PG-13. I do some swearing on the podcast, but I also
Gentle
don't.
R.
Yeah, a gentle R. Like
Yeah.
if like
Well, PG-13 allows one F-bomb.
I pop a little bit more than one F-bomb.
Fair enough.
So
Fair enough.
this is like the top of R. We're like down. We're like down here. We're gentle R.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't think I've ever tried to. I mean, when you were little, you might say something, I'd be like, "Yeah, you don't say that. Be good." But then I'd laugh. But you were also really, really good about stuff. Like I didn't have to tell you stuff a lot. I got lucky with you because you know a lot of folks tell these horror stories about kids, and I never had that with you. The only issue with you was because I worked at night when you were little, so you didn't like sleeping in your bed. And when I was off, when I was off of work, you would, want to crawl into bed, and I'd be like, "Boy, if you don't get back in your own bed," you'd be like, "Oh, and I'm like, "If you don't get back in your daggone bed," and that was really it. Like you were really good. You were dude. You were as cool as the other side of the pillow type of little kid, man. Although there was one time.
All right.
I was ready to put you through a wall. Twice that I remember, but the one time it was the first time you made a joke about my age, and I wanted to.
All right. I'll take the reins from here. So, a little backstory. Me and my dad, one of our bonding things is watching movies. And he was introducing me. We were watching all of the Ghostbusters movies. He was introducing me to the second one. Now,
that was the first one.
It was the first one? Okay.
Yeah, because you were 4 going on 5.
Yeah, okay. So the first Ghostbusters movies, and for the people that aren't aware, at the very end of, like the last, the climax of the movie, I would say, is the Ghostbusters are fighting against this evil ghost, the main, villain.
Those are the Gozerian.
The Gozerian.
Those are the Gozerian and Stay Puft Marshmallow Man.
Now, when Gozer, hold on, let me pull up a picture for.
Well, let me. Yeah, while you're doing that, I'll say, because you never want to leave dead air, I'll say that when the movie first came on, and I was so excited to share this with you, because it's like, I watched this movie with my dad, and, this was probably one of the greatest memories I had with my dad, because my dad and I would watch baseball games and wrestling and movies together, and I was so excited to share this with my son. So I look over at you, and I go, this movie came out when I was your age. And you look at me and go, when you were my age? And I'm like, yeah. So you start thinking about it, you put your little fingers go to your little chin, and you're like, so this movie's really old, huh? And I'm like, you little mother. I was so, at first I was mad, and then I was so proud because it's like spoken like a true smartass, just like his old man.
No,
Go
but
ahead. And
no.
I was so proud. I was so proud.
All right, I can't find a picture from the memory, because I have a distinct memory. I think we're talking about, yeah, we're talking about two different Ghostbusters times. I'm talking about the one that says, "Dad, it looks just like you."
No, that wasn't that. We were
Yeah,
talking.
that wasn't talking.
We were
Yeah,
watching
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Ghostbusters 1.
Yeah. That was like even then, for the viewers, a lot of you are at school. When you see me go, huh, and you see me stroke my beard,
That's where you
that's
get.
always been
That's always been a thing.
that's
That's
always been a
always
thing.
been a
Not
thing.
just since the beard grew in. That's been part
That
of
is all.
my lexicon
Can
of hand
confirm.
gestures.
Can confirm. Can confirm.
But yeah,
You've been doing that since you were a baby, practically.
because
Like
I knew I was gonna grow in.
anytime you were thinking about, anytime you were putting some serious thought into something, you'd be like, hmm. Because I know, because I do it too. I do it too. But then you must have caught me doing it when you were little, and then you just started doing all the. I'll tell you what though, I think you were the first baby I've seen in a nursery give the middle finger,
Yeah.
which was really cool.
All right,
Um,
that story is the last story I will permit of young Brian.
fine, fine, fine.
Until the end, we can save it
It's
till the
not
end.
it's not even really a story.
Okay.
You got your baby picture taken at the hospital and you put your little middle finger up because you were mad at somebody.
All right, I think I have that photo somewhere. Tell the story about the nurse lady, and that will be the last story till the end.
Oh, the nurse. The
Till the
nurse.
end. I have a few
Okay,
questions about
okay,
movies,
okay.
and we can
All
go to
right,
the
no
end.
problem. All right, I'll go to the nurse. So there was a nurse that stayed with me and your mom. Can't remember her name off the top of my head anymore, but she was a really sweet woman. Very, 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 very nice. And she was there with us the whole time. And I have to preface this by saying that even in the womb, you were a very, very peculiar kid. Like you had to have certain, like you were easy, but you had to have certain things your way, and it was not an option. I had to talk to you because I worked at night. I had to talk to you before I left for work, so I'd have to put my hand on your mom's belly, say, "Hey, good night, dude. Dad loves you. I'll be home in a few hours." And you would, do your moving around, your little, zygote unborn baby movement, and you would chill. Well, one night I left, and your mother calls me about half an hour into my shift. She's like, "Talk to your son because he won't give me a moment's peace." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" She goes, "You didn't talk to him. Now he's pissed." And you were just in there kicking and punching up a storm. So your mom puts the phone on her stomach, and I talked to you for like 5 minutes, and then you settled down. So you were used to my voice. 10, no, more than 10 hours. It was like 20,
36.
over 36 hours. Yeah, damn.
My
36
mom
hours of labor.
doesn't go a day.
As she
without telling
should
me.
not. As she should not, because that big bean on top of your neck and those big, gigantic, massive shoulders that you get from me. The things you did to your mom, you should apologize every day. That's all I'm gonna say. But your mom was a soldier about it. Your mom was a trooper about it. And you come out, and I'm like, "My child, my baby. Why is he a Smurf? He is blue. What is wrong?" And then you come out, and you're just sort of looking around wide-eyed, like, "Where the hell am I?" And I'm getting nervous. Your mom's getting nervous because you haven't cried. And I'm like, "Uh-oh, he's blue. He's not making noise." And then you're just like, spit some mucus on the floor. And then you look at this nurse, this gorgeous young woman, nice long blonde hair, stacked. You look up at her. You want the story? I'm telling you. And then this one looks at her and is just like, "So," and then he's just like, he gets his color and everything, and he's all chill and good. And I'm talking, and I'm like, and he's mellow. But then he loses sight of me because the nurse takes him over to the table to get him weighed and all this stuff. And that's when he freaks out. And I mean, he is screaming and he is crying. He is not happy. That was like the angriest baby I ever saw. And then when you heard my voice and they brought you back over and, cut the cord, not the other thing.
Thank God.
Yeah, right. Then you chilled out until you had to get your first bath. But that's another story.
Yeah.
That's another great movie, by the way, The Never-Ending Story.
Dude,
Flagrant,
so good.
flagrant false advertising, but you know what's funny though? The book, The Never-Ending Story, is way different than the movie. Like the movie is like the first quarter of the book, which is insane.
That's a lot.
Um,
Like I vividly that should be on our rewatching because I vividly remember that movie and I remember
I had to
my
watch that movie.
favorite part of that movie was the big dragon.
Luck Dragon Falcor, absolutely.
Was my
You
favorite.
were afraid of the Morg, the agent of the nothing, which is an acceptable reaction. He scared the crap out of me. He was a freaking talking werewolf that was there to destroy all hope in Fantasia. You were supposed to be afraid of him. You hated him. You cried when Artax died, but you loved Falcor. And I remember one time you looked at me mad, and I'm like, dude, what's wrong? You goes, I don't have a Falcor. And I'm like, well, neither do I. I ain't bitching.
But
But no, you loved Falcor, the Luck Dragon. Falcor, the Luck Dragon. You loved him.
I always liked dragons.
I mean, he's a luck dragon. He brings
sick,
luck.
dude.
And
Yeah.
he looks like a dog.
He does look like a dog, dude. It's crazy. It looks like a oriental dragon with like a dog face, dude.
Well, what's cool though is that I think his concept art was of the Asian mythology dragons. They just gave him more of a canine appearance for the kids back in the day.
Which is also like if you look at like a little bit off topic, but still on the topic of dragons. If you look at folklore depictions of dragons, a lot of them, especially European, have dog-like features. Like they look more like dogs than anything.
Well, a lot of that too is because being that dogs are just my humble opinion. Being that dogs are like essentially man's best friend, it makes it a little bit easier to depict dragons as dog-like. Plus, it's easier to draw a dog than it is to draw a lizard. A lizard dragon.
Yeah, very difficult. But anyway,
well, everything's difficult for me to draw. I can't draw for shit.
Where do you think your love of movies stemmed from?
Cousin Karen. You never got to meet Cousin Karen, which was very,
but I
very
know
important.
of her.
Yeah, Cousin Karen was among my very, very, very first best friends. Her and your Uncle Casey were the first people outside of my mother.
Shout out Uncle C, by the way.
Uncle K. Spells with a K. They'll be mad.
Sorry, Uncle K. Sorry, Uncle K.
So,
my fault.
So Karen had an extensive VHS collection, which I've since inherited after her passing. And that's where I fell in love with movies. I mean, I used to be enamored by the bookcases and bookcases of movies and like VHS tapes. I was literally just so enamored. And I just knew at that age, I think I was like maybe 2, I had to have a collection of my own that was just like hers. So I would start, back in the day, when you had a VCR, you could actually record whatever you saw on the television onto the tape. So I had tons of those, so it was no big deal. You would be watching something on cable, something that you like come on, and then you record it, and then you could watch it for personal use. It was basically, pirating before pirating was a thing, because you could record off the TV, but they would say like, you can't use them for like commercial use.
Resale.
Yeah. So basically, and everyone did it. That was just everyday culture. You would tape something off the TV. I mean, back in the day, this was before you could stream and before you could binge watch. There was no ability for you to, well, I'll even be dating myself when I say TiVo. But if something came on Thursday at 8 o'clock and you didn't watch it Thursday at 8 o'clock, you missed out until reruns came. So a lot of people would set their VCR to record their favorite shows. So that's where my love of movies came in because I mean Karen had so many movies. The first time I watched Revenge of the Nerds was with her. Um, Short Circuit, The Breakfast Club, Weird Science, Fletch Lives, National Lampoon's Vacation. So many of these movies I watched with her first, or I would watch with my mother, your Grammy, and your Grammy Housey, God rest her soul. And yeah, so that's where my love for movies came from. And then I would watch these movies so much in between watching movies and reading books. That's just the way my brain worked. And once I reached a certain age is when I started getting bullied. So I didn't like going outside to play with other kids. So movies and books were my friends, which is probably why I'm so weird because I didn't like being around other kids. I hated it. I hated. Only reason why I liked going to school was because my teachers would let me read whatever I wanted, whenever I wanted, so long as I got my work done. I hated dealing with other kids. I lived in fantasy. I lived in books. I lived in movies. So when I would read a comic book. I was one of the X-Men. I was one of the Fantastic Four. I was Spider-Man's sidekick. I would read books about the old Universal monsters. I would read books about Frankenstein and Frankenstein's monster, Dracula, the Wolfman, the Mummy, Creature from the Black, like all these books. And then I'd watch these movies. I think one of the first times I watched an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie was with Karen, and because she was into that. So that's where my love for movies came from. I wanted a collection that was just like hers, and and that's just how it happened. I preferred the fantasy, even at that age, when some of my greatest times of my life were in the 80s and the 90s. I still preferred the fantasy world. I was always a dreamer. Always a dreamer.
That's it's very inspiring. Well, cause I had never cause I never asked like that question like I did like before this show, like right now. So I'm hearing this for the first time.
You just knew your dad liked movies.
That's cool. That's just says like grew up watching all these movies.
Mm-hmm.
That movies has always been like a really core part of my personality. I feel like in my younger years, I really took after you with just like not like tending to myself, reading books, watching movies. But I feel like, especially like I feel like my freshman year of high school, that was where I kind of started to blossom in my own person, and I found out I'm a very social person. I like to talk a lot to a lot of people, and I find myself. I still watch movies, but I find myself reading different books, not in the fantasy world, but in previous events like history.
I've noticed that. I noticed that. I remember when you were little, man.
Those Percy Jacksons.
Yeah, it was Percy Jackson, Tristan Strong, all sorts of different fantasy books, and that was really your dig. And then I think you were probably, I want to say you were 13 when you asked me for the Art of War. And
it was for a school project. I still remember that.
And I got you the Art of War, and it was like after that you shifted because first it was like fantasy books and computers, and then it started to change. And what's weird is that at first, I'm not even gonna lie, at first it kind of made, I think all parents go through what I'm about to say. I was a little bit sad because I was like, oh no, like every parent. And this is something that y'all youngins, y'all young folks that watch this now that are in high school, and I'll say this to you as well, son. When you grow up one day and have a child of your own, which in your case, young man, better be a long time
It's not
from
gonna be
now.
for a long time.
Damn right it's not.
The podcast has got to
you
catch
you
on
you you
first.
yeah, you when you have this little person in your life, right? And at first you're their everything. You're their only method of survival. You're the one that feeds them, that cleans them, that that changes them, teaches them. And then they start to grow up and develop personalities when they're 4, 5, 6. But you're still a hero, and they like the things that you like. It's huge. But every parent worries when their child becomes a teenager because that's when you start to become yourself. In some instances, your child is always going to be your child. Always. But when they hit teenage years, that's when they start to become more than just your child. This is when they start to become who they are. And there's always horror stories about kids yelling at their parents, I hate you, and blah, blah, blah. And parents not being able to relate to their child. You know what I mean? And because a lot of the time it's the disconnect comes from a lack of being able to communicate. The parent wants to communicate like they did when the child was a child. But now that child is a teenager. They want the communication to be different. And I mean, I'm sure your friends understand that. You understand that. Your parents. It's not like they're trying to control you. We want to understand you, but the problem is that you're always going to be our child, always. And sometimes I don't want to say we make the mistake because I don't want to impugn anybody's parent. I do not. But when I say we make the mistake, please understand that I'm using a general term. I'm not saying your parents are making mistakes.
Take it with a grain of salt.
Please take it with a grain, because last thing I need is to hear Brian's mom having parents bombard her. Well, your ex-husband said that I was making mistakes. That is not the case. What I'm saying is that sometimes we as parents, we try to communicate with you guys like you're still our baby. You don't want to be a baby anymore. You're starting to find your independence. You're starting to find who you are. You're starting to get curious about the world. You're discovering yourself. You're discovering your body as it makes its changes, as you get taller, as you get stronger, as you're becoming an adult. And 9 times out of 10, you're feeling these really strong, complicated feelings, and you don't understand.
You can't put the tack on it.
Right. You're frustrated because you're trying to find these answers, but the answers aren't there. And when you just want to try to figure it out, your parents are the they're trying to help without knowing how to help you. And I think some of us as parents, we get so used to being your problem solver that maybe we forget how to put ourselves in our teenage selves. Like with you, dude. I mean, maybe it's one part because of our distance, but even when you started hitting high school, hey, you good? Yeah, I'm fine. All right. Why am I gonna push? What am I gonna do? Drive 600 miles, grab you by the throat, and shake you until you tell me what's on your mind? No. Even when you were little, if you didn't want to talk about something, you didn't talk about it. So I was never gonna force you. But we also had that relationship from a very early age where I just kind of understood. You understood where I was coming from. I understood where you were coming from. And I knew how to just leave you the hell alone when you needed it. And even as you become an adult, what did I tell you when you turned 13? When you were going into high school, I told you, I said, look, if this was 200 years ago, I'd be marrying you off. You're practically an adult now. Now it's up to you to put into practice the lessons that I've taught you. And as you've gotten older, every year I tell you the same thing. Now you're going to be 17. Look, you're literally you're going to be a year away from adulthood. And I'm not concerned because, in a lot of ways I got lucky with you. Now, some of you all, your parents may not say this. Your parents will probably say something quite similar.
Thank you.
But even if they don't, for those of you who
Love you.
were like, well, damn, my parents don't say nothing like that. The reason why is because they're not ready for you to grow up yet. I want to say give your folks a break, because when you have a child, the feeling that your child doesn't isn't going to need you the way you're used to them needing you is a hard pill to swallow. Because, and Brian, I've told you this, I wasn't always your dad. I had a life before you. And a lot of you all, your parents had lives before you, and then you came along, their greatest achievement. And if you've got siblings, you and your siblings are their greatest achievement, their greatest creation. And then the thing is that there we go. The thing is that your parents put so much of who they are into being your parent, right?
Right.
So now this being that you have attached your everything around is starting to grow up and pull away. Well, now I think some parents are like, well, then who the hell am I if I'm not just mom and dad? You know what I mean? So all this to say is, yeah, that's a question that you've never asked me before. And at this point now, you know who I am as dad. These are the years now that you're going to start be looking to know me as just Bryan Senior. You know what I mean? Which honestly ain't that much different than dad, really. Unless you want to hear about some of my biggest failures and my biggest embarrassments.
We can talk about that
Which,
during Christmas.
nah,
Yeah.
maybe we'll see. There's still some things you don't need to know about. Besides, because if you try to throw them back in my face, I'm gonna laugh at you, because you're gonna have some of your own. You're gonna have some of your own doozies one day. That's part of growing up, is your own doozies. Those doozies are what shape us. But I'll tell you what. You want to talk about movies that really helped shape me as a person? I don't think this is a movie I've shared with you yet. Kevin Smith's film Dogma.
You've
Dogma,
mentioned it. You've mentioned it.
I've mentioned it. Dogma is not widely available for distribution right now, because technically that creeper Harvey Weinstein still kind of owns the rights to it, because when Kevin Smith had a lot of distribution through Miramax before everything with Harvey Weinstein came out. Now, I'm not telling you that it's on YouTube right now, free to watch, but it may or may not be free on YouTube to watch. Hint, hint, hint. Basically, Dogma is about two angels that were cast out of heaven and have been forced to live in Wisconsin for all of eternity, which the only thing worse than having to live in Wisconsin is probably living in Cleveland. Middle
Yeah.
finger to the city of Cleveland. Anywho, they find a loophole in the Catholic Church that's going to allow them to get into heaven. So a woman is visited by the Metatron, the voice of God, to stop these angels from getting into heaven. What makes this movie super important to me is that the year it came out was the year that I was having a huge crisis of faith in my own spiritual upbringing. Because you know what, there was a time that I wondered if I believed in God, and the movie Dogma really helped me come to grips, and in so many ways have helped shape me into help shape my spirituality. And I'm eternally grateful for that, because it's a hilarious movie, but it's also a movie that makes you think. It's something that I think Kevin Smith does not get enough credit for being. He's a hilarious writer and director, but there's so much good thought and energy in his stories as well.
Okay. All right. So Dogma. Don't
Yep.
don't go and watch it.
I mean, yeah, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, nod, nod. Um, I can't stop you from going to YouTube and searching Dogma full movie, but yeah,
Viewer discretion is advised, I would say.
viewer discretion is absolutely
On the
advised.
topic of like media that's definitely changed you, I would say that a lot of I'm a big history guy. I mentioned it in the first episode, but I haven't really gotten the chance to talk about it extensively on the podcast. But I history is a very influential piece in my. I would say that history to me is like movies to you. It's just one of those things there. It's like it's always been there. It's just kind of
Mm-hmm.
manifested in different things. Like so, in a very early part of my life, it was mythology. But then now,
Yes,
I still like mythology, but I'm tying it into
you prefer
history
actual
as a
history.
as an actual history, and I feel like I study history, and then I notice patterns because life is full of patterns. So I notice, like when people say certain things, and I'm tying this back, when you said when you enter teenage, when you become a teenager, you start to become your own person, and I was
Yep.
immediately able to tie that into our nation's founding. When the 13 states were colonies, I would say it's in an infantile state. But when as soon as that Declaration of Independence was set off, I would say that our country entered teenagehood, and it's just one of those things where I admire that I can learn about these things that happened 1, 2, 300 years ago and further back, and it still is applicable to stuff that happens in my daily life. So, we mentioned Art of War. That taught me a lot about patience. I don't always apply that patience, but that taught me a lot about patience and how Sun Tzu used that patience to his advantage in the Art of War.
Yeah. And I'll tell you the great thing about history. I'm gonna get a little bit raw. Viewer discretion is advised. History don't care about your feelings,
Exactly.
and here's why: because history is fact. Fact don't care about feelings. What I have no patience for when it comes to history is people trying to revise it to make people feel comfortable. I have zero appreciation for that. I have zero respect for that. No, you're not trying to protect children. You are trying to neuter them.
You're trying to censor them.
You're trying to censor children, you're trying to neuter them, and you're hindering their minds. Here's the thing: when we're talking about the state of this country and we're talking about the history of this country, guess what? America has not always been the good guy, even in our own story. It has not. It is a fact, okay? It is a straight up fact of life, and it is what it is. But if you try to hide it, if you try to whitewash it, if you try to sugarcoat it, you do everyone around,
An
especially young
injustice.
people, an injustice, a disservice. Because here's the bottom line: bad things happen, but good people rise from the ashes and they make the world better. Okay? Bottom line: listen, America has made a ton of mistakes. America continues to make mistakes, but that is also what makes us human. What we as people need to do, and this is something that your generation is, members of your generation that are a little bit older than you guys watching now, what y'all do is that you're fighting for this. You young folks are watching what's going on and you're making decisions of who you want to be. And I encourage that. I encourage you to see the world around you, question, and because have I not always told you to question what you see? Have I not always told you that?
Every day.
I have always told you, ask questions. If it don't make sense, ask questions. I have always tried to instill in your mother as well. We have always tried to instill in you right and wrong. The one thing that would not be tolerated is being cruel for no reason, to always be kind, to always give people the benefit of a doubt until they show you who they are. Be kind, but set your boundaries. And when someone shows you who they are, believe them. And it's okay to forgive, but forgiveness does not mean absolution. What does that mean?
Forgive but never forget.
Not even just that. It's not even just that. That's simplistic. I'm talking deeper. Someone wrongs you. Let's just say, I don't know. Let's just say you know a kid named Roy. Okay? You and Roy are buddies. And then one day, Roy comes up to you, calls you a slur, and kicks you in the balls. Now, you can either throw hands with Roy the next day. I would.
I would too.
I would whoop Roy's ass.
I would. Roy would.
However, eventually you all are going to get pulled into the principal's office to talk about it. Now, Roy's one of you're both going to probably get a suspension. You for fighting, Roy for using a slur. And then they're going to say something about, like, Roy's going to come up to you probably because he's going to be made to apologize. And then when you say, it's all right, it's fine.
Is it fine, though?
Well, here's the point. Here's the point I'm going to make. Forgiveness is not for the perpetrator, the person that wronged you. Forgiveness is for the wronged, for you. In other words, you're not forgiving Roy for Roy's sake. You're forgiving Roy for your own sake. Because what you are doing is whatever power that Roy may have taken from you that has him in your head when you're at home. Oh, that effing Roy. I'm going to beat the crap out of him next time I see him. I'm going to put together a voodoo doll and I'm going to keep stabbing it with needles. But it was like 3 months ago. I don't care. I hate Roy. Hard. I'm not calling you, dog. The forgiveness is you basically saying, you know what? I'm not even going to think about you no more. When I see you in passing, you're just another suit of meat and clothes. I'm not going to give you any sort of control or power. I'm not even going to acknowledge your presence. If you drop your books and something falls out of your reach, maybe I'll use my foot to kick it back to you so you can pick it up a little bit easier. I'm not going to go out of my way to be a jerk to you, but I'm damn sure not going to be friendly with you. We're not going to go back as if everything is cool. But what I'm not going to do is waste my time being angry at you. That's the difference. I'm not going to spend my time being miserable because I'm mad at you. I'm not going to be toxic and fuss about Roy to all of my friends. Now my friends don't want to hang out with me because I'm so fixated on how mad I am at Roy. That's such a stupid name. Sorry for anyone named Roy, by the way. But I'm not going to sit here and now my younger siblings are miserable around me because I'm so mad at Roy that I can't play with them like a normal person. If I've got a girlfriend, I can't just sit and watch a movie with her because, that guy looks like Roy. Arr, I'm mad.
Shout out that one guy that plays Roy in The Office.
I know, right? Well, he was kind of a douche.
He was definitely a douche. I'm sure he's nice in person, but
Well, he was also a douche in Peacemaker, too. He was a racist. He was a racist in Peacemaker.
Really?
But anyway, yeah. Yeah, he played Peacemaker's big brother in the alternate universe. But, so basically the whole point of forgiveness is so you can release the malicious anger and just live your life. Now, if Roy wants to MF you and this, that, and the other all the live long day, that's Roy's problem. You don't have to indulge with Roy unless Roy calls himself trying to put hands on you. Then you knock Roy's ass out and you keep it moving, but you're not doing it maliciously. You know what I mean? So forgiveness, folks, doesn't mean, hey, you wronged me, but I say it's A-okay and I'm opening the door to trust you again so you can wrong me again. No, that's not what that means. What it means is I am no longer going to let myself be angry at you. I am not going to forget that you wronged me, but I'm not going to just stay mad at you either. Now, if you choose to forgive someone and to give them a second chance, the second chance is a follow-up of the forgiveness. It is not a part of the forgiveness. It is a follow-up to the forgiveness. It is a follow-up that you can choose to not allow. All right. If you stop being friends with someone because they say or do something that hurts your feelings, you don't have to go back to being friends with them. But you can just decide, you know what, we're just not friends anymore. Maybe I'll be friendly towards you. That doesn't mean I'm your friend. I'm
We're
not
not
going to go
gonna
outside my way to hurt you, but we're not
we're
friends.
not gonna go watch a movie. Like, I'm not gonna
No.
have you over to watch UFC, but I'm also not gonna slam like
Yeah, I'm
rip
not
up
going
your
to go out.
books.
Yeah, I'm not going to do something to try to cause you harm, but I'm not going to be buddy buddy either.
Exactly.
That's what I mean by that,
And
for sure.
that's like a thing where I'm not gonna get into the example of how, but I feel like to hear an adult give me a lesson like that, I need to see them put it in action, and I've seen firsthand you put that in action, and I can say that now I know how to handle myself as a man with forgiveness. How to keep somebody at that arm's length, but also give them that opportunity, but
Yeah,
never forgetting.
right. Well, the second opportunity is not, they are not owed a second opportunity.
That's complete entirely your choice.
That is your choice, absolutely. But you, for your own peace of mind, definitely need to let the, I don't want to say let the anger go, because sometimes someone does something to you that it just hurts. But when I say let the anger go, I mean the control that they have of you in that anger, to the point where you can't live your life. You know, when I, like, if somebody wrongs you and you say, "Yeah, I forgive you," that means that you, and if I ask you how your day was, you're not still fussing about that person that wronged you as if it just happened yesterday.
And it's,
You know,
yeah,
and it's been like
a
a
month.
month,
Yeah.
2 months, a year. You know what I mean? That's what forgiveness is. Forgiveness, and I'm gonna wrap this up by reiterating: forgiveness isn't for the perpetrator. Forgiveness is for the victim of the activity. Simple as that.
Yeah. Yeah. Wise words from a time hardened man.
Wow, that's a hell of a way to put it. Time hardened. That's true, man. That's true. Um, I'll tell you what. The one thing that you all are going to learn, and I'm going to say this. I'm saying this in a way to not impugn things that you go through. Your struggles are your struggles. They absolutely are. Us adults, when an adult seems to minimize your struggle, it's not because we're minimizing your struggles if it doesn't matter. It's that we would kill
To
to have
just
your
have, right.
struggles again. You know what I mean? It's tough. Like, honestly, if I could go back to being a kid in high school again, I would. I absolutely would. If I could go back to 1993 as a high school freshman again, I mean, I would. Just because I had no only responsibilities I had were to do my homework, and that's it. That was my only responsibility, and I didn't even do that right. That's why I jump on you so much about your education. But now, and what's weird is, and it broke my heart. I remember you were little, you were young, and you heard me on the phone say something about wanting to go back in time or something. And you looked at me, and I think you weren't even 5 yet, I don't think. And you were like, well, Dad, if you go back in time, you never would have had me. And it broke my heart because
Introspective
it's,
thinking.
yeah. And I was like, and I looked you dead in your eye and I said, that's not true. I was put on earth to be your dad. That was my whole reason to live my life, was to be your dad. So no matter what choices I made in life, I was always going to be your dad. These are the choices that happen to put me here. So when if you hear your parents say something about, like, indicate, oh, I'd love to have your problems and blah blah blah, they're not undermining what you're going through. That's sort of our way of saying, you know what, I really wish that I could have your problems, because when you're before you become an adult, and this is coming from a perspective of somebody 46 years old.
God damn. Sorry.
I know, right?
Sorry.
You know what? You're gonna make it here one day. And when you're young, when you're before you hit adult age, a lot of your life is really straightforward. Like when you're a toddler, learn how to use the potty, learn how to tie your shoes. It is hard as hell and frustrating. I don't want to do it. I just want to, but then you figure it out and then you move on. Kindergarten, you learn your letters, you learn your shapes, you learn your colors. And then so on and so forth. When you get to high school, sometimes when you start getting into romantic situations, that's your biggest deal. Or making an A in a class is your biggest deal. Making the team, wearing the right outfit, those are your biggest deals, right? But once you hit adulthood, once you hit that next level, and trust me when I say, like, if you choose to go to college, if you choose to go to the military, you choose to go to a trade school, whatever, you're going to look back at your senior year, your junior year, your sophomore year, your freshman year. Maybe not as soon as you become an adult, but you're going to realize one day that things you worried about at 14, 15, 16, 17, those things aren't as complex as what you're worrying about as an adult. Now, granted, what you would worry about, using you as an example, what you worry about at 16 is major for right now. But anything that you worried about at 12, it's not that
Seems
big of a deal.
seems like
It's
this.
small.
Yeah.
It's small compared to where you're at now. So when your parents hear you fuss about something at school, it's not that we don't think that it's important. Sometimes we'll laugh about it because it's nostalgia. Oh, I remember when I was at that age worried about these things. We're not trying to minimalize you. We're really not. It's just that we remember what that was like, what it was like when that was all we had to worry about. Um, so yeah, it's really when you talk about being, just world and life tested. I mean, I've seen a lot. There were times I started to see things at an early age that I shouldn't have seen. You know, I realized, I think when I was 11 years old, that I could die. I learned when I think I was about 10, 11 years old. I realized that I could die from something that I wasn't even involved in, because in the late and crack hit the scene in the inner city in the early mid 80s, and it just started to get worse and worse. Gang violence started to get really, really bad in the late 80s into the 90s, especially in the mid 90s. It was bad. And I still remember at times hearing gunshots and realizing that, now granted, not right outside my house, I would hear them from a distance in a nearby neighborhood. And I realized, especially because you'd hear about kids just in their bedrooms, a stray bullet comes in and hits them. It was all over the TV, all over the TV. And I realized that, I think I walked by some gangbangers when I was going to school, and one of them was like threatening me, I can't remember what it was. And I realized that like I could die out here. And that, among a few other things, really changed me for forever. Life was a lot different back then. Um, Especially in a lot of ways, being a young black man, we had. I mean, I had to really toughen up in a lot of things. Like there were instances where I couldn't really show emotion. Now, granted, my mother never dissuaded me from showing emotion, but being around other kids, it was tougher. And then when I would be around male teachers or certain male influences, quit all that crime. Quit all that crime. You ain't no. And they used to, they would call you a sissy, which now is very problematic. They would use the F word for that. Quit being like that, because that's just words that were used back then.
It was
And
normalized.
it was very normalized. And it was tough, because my first 2 years of high school were hell on earth for me. I mean, I was one of few black kids at this school. And a lot of the black kids that were there, they came from families with money. And so they were accepted because they were athletes or they had money. Me, I was there on scholarship, and I think I went to high school, I was only about 5'2", 220. I wasn't big. And I didn't know how to use my body. And these kids made my life hell. I got called the N-word every day. I even had teachers telling me, we don't want people like you in our school.
Well,
I remember, yeah, go.
can we back up to the 5'2" part?
Yeah, I
You were
was not very,
five.
I was probably 5'2". I want to say when I first went into high school, I was only between 5'2" and 5'4".
I was probably about 5'7", 2 flat.
You were you were way taller than me when you went into high school. Like you were way taller than me. Like you and your uncle Leonard are probably about the same height.
Yeah, I'm
And
in that six
you're
kind of
almost
6 foot range.
Yeah, you're
Yeah, I'm in
about
that
6 foot.
6 foot range.
I'm never going to be 6 foot.
That's okay.
Ever.
It's alright.
Ever. I don't need to be.
It's alright.
But no, I was short. I was short going into high school. I was short and thick. I was a tree stump. And I still
Makes the best
remember,
wrestlers. Just saying.
I wasn't that good at that either. I was too scared. I was so terrified to 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 just show stuff. The only thing I knew how to show was anger and sadness, because that's all I felt was anger and sadness. I still remember I was a freshman in high school. I think I was a freshman. I was either a freshman or a sophomore. And this kid told this joke that was probably among the most racist things I had ever had said to me. And he said it loud enough for the teacher to hear. And I looked to the teacher, and the teacher had a smile on his face like the joke made. He didn't want to laugh, but he was kind of
It
laughing.
was one of those trying not to laugh moments because it's not appropriate. Trying
And
to
I
lock
think
in.
and I think that's when I decided I didn't care about academics anymore. That was when I quit. I just gave up on anything education related until I hit my junior year. But it took me a long time to finally start learning how to study and all that again. It was tough. It was very, very tough. So I say that to say, once again, for an older point, we as parents aren't minimizing your difficulties, but we are sort of envious of your difficulties at your age, because every parent wants their child to to have things easier than they did. Every parent does. Wow, this is a lot different than our first conversation, where all we did was talk about movies and podcasts. But I kind of feel like the reason why this one is sort of probably going to stick is because maybe this is a more relevant discussion.
Yeah,
Maybe
and I
maybe it's a
mean,
more relevant discussion.
we've kind of evolved where the conversation is going, and I have an idea of where I want to tie it into next. But I want you to finish your point because I feel like even if people, this is going to be one of the longer episodes of the podcast. I can already feel it, but it's not really about people watching it for me. It's about me being able to have conversations and enjoy conversations. In this moment, my dad, the people still watching this, my dad, we haven't always been close in a physical sense, but I've always felt a certain closeness to him, like mentally. I feel like we share a lot of things in common, so I feel like this episode is probably going to be by far my favorite that I put out, simply because of the fact that I have my dad on and we can have these sort of evolved discussions, because I have somebody on the podcast that has. I'm sick. I'm turning 17 in December or January.
About to
It's
say
no, in November. It's now November.
2 months.
My dad has 30 years on me. My dad will always have 30 years on me, and that's why I admire talking to him, because he has 30 years of pooled knowledge at my disposal
Mm-hmm.
that I can have trickled down to me whenever I want to help my point of view equally as much as the history books, equally as much as the Art of War or the Battle Cry of Freedom or any of these books, equally as much because of the knowledge, because of the real world knowledge that can, like, the closer knowledge that can be implemented into this day with more accuracy.
Yeah. Yeah, you know I'll never lie to you. I have not lied to you ever. Um, I think maybe one time I told you if you didn't go to bed right then and there that like the closet monster was going to get you. Probably. But I'll tell you something else too. And I'm gonna say this to a lot of your anyone at your school that might be listening. And this is specifically to those that identify as LGBTQ. Is the IA still a part of it? Is it, or is it just
My views,
LGBTQ?
my views are a little bit different, but I would just say LGBTQ. I
Okay,
would say.
if you're LGBTQ and your your parents aren't at that place in their journey yet to accept you, I will accept you. Matter of fact, I have every intention on going to the next Pride parade, and basically, I want to get a T-shirt that says, "If you lost your dad, I'll be your dad. Here's a hug." Because I feel like that's important. I've come a long way in my life. I've realized that I just want to try to leave this world a little bit better the way I found it. To give as much knowledge as I can, to give as many smiles as I can, to give as many hugs as I can, because I realize, we're coming up. It's been a month and a half now. It's going to be 2 months in a couple of weeks before Thanksgiving that we lost Brian's grandmother, my mother.
Rest in peace, Grammy Halsey.
And that really, I thought that was going to destroy me because I was not ready. Um, my wife Sharon came home from work because she had been living with us for a year because she had to have emergency surgery, and she had been living with us for a year, and I was ready for her to never go home, to be with us forever, and I was okay with that. And because when I was a kid, from age 1 until I moved out for good, it was just me and her. And Sharon called me at work and said, "Mom's not responding." I left work, didn't I just said, "I gotta go." And I left. And I have never been a real reckless driver. I was that day. And I just remember praying and praying and praying the whole time. Please not now. Please not now. Because I knew. I just knew. Because my mom has never been unresponsive, had never been unresponsive. And then I got there and I tried to run over the police officers. I really tried to run them over. And they said, I just knew. And in that moment, I literally felt the whole world fall. And my first call was to you. And then I made the calls that I needed to make. And I recant that to say that the one thing that I think is helping me to grieve is that, my mother she loved to give presents. That was her thing. For
She
me,
loved
I
giving
like to,
presents.
mhm.
She loved
I
that.
love to, I like to try to give knowledge. I'd like to try to make people laugh. That's why, I always feel good when you ask me questions because I have all this knowledge that I have earned over now 46 years of a lot of mistakes. I've had some wins. I have had some W's, but I have had a whole lot of L's. I have taken probably more L's than I care to admit.
Everybody has their rise and falls. That's a Roman Empire. That's a Roman Empire for you. They have their rises and they have their falls,
Oh,
and that's
I've
everybody.
fallen. Look, I've fallen so much that sometimes I get up on my knees and I'm back on my face, and that's okay because that's how I've learned. That's where my lessons come from. Is the falls, and I won't even go so far to call them failures because it's only a failure if you refuse to learn from the challenges. Now, my goal is to impart you with enough knowledge that you don't fall as much as I did. Like, you're at a crucial spot right now of becoming the man that you're going to be, you specifically. And I don't want you to take the same path. The path that I chose to take made things a lot more difficult. But that was my path. Those were my choices. Just like your choices are your choices. I told you once, my job at this point is to be your advisor. I have given you the lessons. I have taught you the lessons. Now it's up to you to understand what those lessons are for and how to put them into your life situations. And I'm just here I'm an advisor. That's not me stepping back. That's me wanting you to step forward. And I'll tell you what, um, for your buddies and for your friends that are listening, your parents are probably doing that at this. If you're getting to that point of being 16, 17, 18, your parents are probably starting to do the same. They're just doing it in a different way. Some of you have, you either have both your parents in your house with you or a parent that lives closer by than I live to Brian. So my method has to be a little bit different, but it works for us because I took the time to listen to you to understand what your needs were and how I needed to communicate my lessons to you. And it wasn't always easy. But damn it, I am grateful for every second. And I'm sure, y'all that are watching and listening or however, your folks will probably say the same thing. They probably would have done things a little bit different, but damn it, they're thankful for every moment.
Yeah, and I mean, like that's a great example right there. Like the thing is, like I mentioned before, my dad and I have always been close physically, but we've always had that kind of relationship where it was less. He was always a dad. He was always my dad first, but he was my friend second. But above, well, I should say he was my friend third. But second, he was always my advisor. Every time, even when we lived together, even when I go over to his house in Pittsburgh, shout out the Berg, Steel City, love you. Um, it's always I go through some. I shouldn't say go through something. I experience something. I see something, and I'm like, "What do you think of that?" Because like, that ties it back into the history thing, and like even like combat sports and stuff like that. I have my views. I'm always trying to figure out other people's views, and that's why I like this platform as somebody where people can freely express their opinion, no matter what, no judgment. You can have your gripes. You can have your personal opinions on this show. If anybody gripes, if anybody like and tries to inhibit on another person's opinions, that's not gonna fly.
No,
That's not gonna fly. Like people don't have to agree with your opinions about LGBT and what you plan to do on that rally. But I'm not gonna be able to like completely control it. But I just want people to know that like your opinion is your opinion, but I will frown upon you for trying to make him feel bad, trying to make my dad feel bad about his opinion, because that's just messed up.
Well, I mean, they can try.
Yeah. See,
you can try.
They can try,
but I honestly, I will be the nicest dude in the world, but once you cross that line, I ain't got no problem putting you in your place.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I'll say this. Finish your point.
Since the second episode, I have made it abundantly clear that is a free space for people to talk about what they want. That's because anybody who asks, "Oh yeah, what are we going to talk about on the podcast?" When I ask them if they'll come on, they say, "Yeah." I say, "Whatever you want."
Whatever we're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, whatever you want. This is a conversation, and to these points just happen having conversation. Obviously, I'm going to try to avoid any like certain politics that are really, really dicey. But if we get to that, I just have to make sure the points I'm making are clear.
Right. Well, I think that you also, if you're going to say something, make sure you're ready to back it up. And when I say make sure you're ready to back it up, this is what I mean. Say something, but you better make sure that you stand by what you said, or you had better be ready to be willing to modify your opinion. Like for me personally, a difference of opinion is I like punk and you like country. I like Detroit style pizza, you like New York style. You like seafood, I don't. We can have a difference of opinion on those things. What is not something that I will tolerate, I will not tolerate bigotry, I will not tolerate misogyny, and I will not tolerate xenophobia and homophobia. I will not tolerate hate from anybody. I don't tolerate microaggressions in that regard. Why? Because I've had to take them. I've worked at jobs where I've had to take microaggressions. I had someone at a job tell me one time, Brian, you should smile a little bit more because it's a little bit intimidating.
It's okay.
I'm the only black person that works there. I know what they're saying. And it made me very angry and uncomfortable. That's not okay. I had at that same place about a year later, maybe 2 years later, we were having a company-wide lunch.
We're talking about, not going to name the company.
Don't say the name.
Not going to name the company.
It's the company that you're thinking of.
Yeah,
yes.
over 85.
Yes.
That's all I'll say.
Yes. And I remember I ordered a bacon cheeseburger and French fries.
Delicious,
The
by the way.
guy, mhm. The guy goes to give me my box, and he goes, "I think this is yours. I don't think they had fried chicken and watermelon, but here you go." And
Yo.
everybody at the company looked at me for my reaction. No one admonished him for saying that because that's extremely out of pocket.
It's very out of pocket.
But they were looking at me for my reaction. And I just took the box and I walked away. Now, old me from 10, 12, 15 years prior would have cussed him out. 16, 17 years prior, I probably would have caught a case. Because these hands are sometimes rated E for everyone. And I'll tell you what, those are things I won't tolerate. I remember when you were little, somebody was trying to, oh, I just want to touch his hair. And it's like, get your hands out my baby's head. He's not a dog. He's not a toy. Because that's another microaggression. Those are things I will not tolerate any sort of bigotry in any way. And I don't care if it's veiled in comedic. I don't care if it's veiled in curiosity. Because your entertainment is not going to come from my sense of self. Now, I can take a joke. I can do self-deprecating humor. I've done it before. But the problem is, and this is something that I ran into when I was your age and a little bit older, are people being blatantly bigoted, being blatantly prejudiced, and saying, oh, can't you take a joke? Why can't you people take a joke?
There's a difference between a joke and being
a malicious, prejudiced douchebag.
That's what I've always been like. Now me, I kind of grew up in an area. I'm not saying you weren't, but I kind of grew up in an area where, shout out New Hampshire, predominantly white. And I will say that I'll say that I've kind of gotten calloused to that. I'm not blind. I'm not blind at all to these microaggressions, but I feel like my way, instead of just walking away, I've kind of trained myself to find the comedy in everything. So if somebody looks at me and says, oh yeah, we didn't have the fried chicken and watermelon, I'm going to laugh. But not because
it's funny.
Not because it's blatantly hilarious. That's just how I deal with it.
That's how you deal with it.
In my mind, I imagine it as like, if one of my friends made that joke, what would I do? Because I try to be empathetic to everybody unless they're not to me. And I like something like that. Microaggressions are... I see microaggressions as a lower tier of a threat than up here. So if somebody's microaggressive towards me, it's not affecting my daily life. Like,
and that's cool. And that's cool. There's nothing wrong with that. Me, I don't have time for it. You know, and everyone handles these things differently. You know, some people, you know, there was a time where, you know what, I would just outwardly be ready to throw hands. That's not who I am anymore. I'm a father, I'm a grandfather, you know, that's not who I am anymore. But at the same token, it's like I said earlier, I might let it go, but I'm definitely going to look at you different. You know, and I'll tell you, when I lived in New Hampshire, I found it to be extremely challenging based on just the way people took to me. Now, in some instances, maybe I just, you know, personality-wise, whatever. But at the time that I was there, I had to deal with a lot of that stuff. And I didn't like it. It left a sour taste in my mouth. Once you honestly, once you turn 18, and if you stay in New Hampshire, then I'll be there to visit you. If you decide to leave New Hampshire, I'll probably never go there again, because as beautiful as it is, there were people that lived there that made my time there very, very difficult and hurtful, and it took me a lot of time to heal. Um, I say that to say, and I say that a lot because I'm trying to reel myself in. I'm all for accepting people's differences of opinion, but there are certain things that I will not accept.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
will not accept. I will not accept blatant disrespect, bigotry, homophobia, misogyny, xenophobia. I won't, because everyone deserves to be valued. Everyone deserves to be treated as human. Now, if you a kitty diddler, I don't care what happens to you.
wood
I
chipper,
hope I'm all for it.
wood chipper.
Actually,
That's that's
I
one
think in
thing.
one of my books I had someone thrown in a wood chipper.
There's three things. I'm setting this out of the record right now. Early episode 4. Three things I don't accept. I don't like fascism. If you like, it's one thing to be like, oh, I love Adolf Hitler as a joke. You're like, oh yeah, Adolf Hitler was a great guy, dude. I like what
Sarcasm
I
is
do.
fine.
Like if
What
that's
a guy!
if
I'm
what a
sure he was
guy.
a great
I
man.
really
Great
admire I
man.
really admire what he did. But if you're like genuinely if you can look at me straight in the eye and like it's not a joke, being like, oh yeah, I dig Hitler. I dig Francisco Franco. You're gonna be like, what are you talking about? There's still got to be something wrong. There's a difference between there's political spectrums, left, right. Then there's beyond the political spectrum, right in the middle of the ocean. I would say on both sides. Oh yeah, I love the dude that caused the White Death and the millions of murdered people. What?
Yeah.
What? Are you?
Yeah.
Look at
There's
me.
no, there's no place.
Look at me in the eye right now and tell me you like that.
He
All right,
said, "Look
please,
me in the
please,
eye." He
please.
said, "Look me in my digital eye."
Look me in my freaking bovine colored eyes, and tell me, like, so that pedophiles and like people that are hateful. There's one thing to say. There's a few things like there's a few words that I'll like if people say I'll reel in. One of them being enemy. If somebody says, "Oh yeah, they're the enemy." If somebody's a Democrat and they say, "Oh yeah, the Republicans are the enemy," that's whoa. Let's bring that back. Just same thing
Here,
for
here's
Republicans.
here's the thing that here's the only thing I'll say to that. A person who, because here's the thing, you want to make sure you're on a good slope on this, in a sense, because I've always tried to teach you to be a creature of balance. It's okay for us to disagree, but if you side yourself with hate, I cannot ever side with you, and we leave it at that.
Yeah, and I completely agree. And that's one
There's
of the
no.
basis of my show. I try to have it like a hate free zone. Jokes are
Mhm.
jokes, hate is hate. And that's where I'll
And
leave it.
hate is never acceptable.
And hate's never acceptable. Now, on that point, I would say, on a little bit of a lighter note, you said that New Hampshire, a little bit difficult for you. I would say,
Mhm.
because I've lived here for so long, feel like I'm a native New Englander. I would say the biggest triumph or the biggest hardship I find living in New England, dead in New England, might add, sports teams. I'm sorry, New Englanders.
I hated
New
living there when
England,
I did.
the
I
New
hated living there when I did.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to say this. I'm not really sorry. The New England sports teams are always going to be number 2 to everybody on the Pittsburgh teams on Steel City. Pirates. Listen, I
Even if the
love Drake.
Pirates aren't all that great, they're still
Even though
great.
even though the Pirates aren't that great, even though the Penguins are doing pretty good, but historically kind of
They haven't
dicey.
been good. They haven't been good the last few years.
Steelers haven't been really good except for this year. They're always gonna be on
Well,
top.
they're always getting to the playoffs. They just can't win. Absolutely. I tell you what, when I lived in New Hampshire, this was when you were born, they were getting into that dynasty thing, and it's like, oh yeah, kid, Tom Brady can do no wrong, kid. Oh God, Tom Brady,
Yeah.
go Tom and Gronk and Belichick. Oh, it's like, oh my God,
Belichick's a creep. I'm sorry. You see that
Belichick's a creep.
19-year-old? You see that 19-year-old he's with right now?
Dude, she's old enough to be your girlfriend.
Dude, yeah, exactly.
He's old enough to be your too old girlfriend.
Yeah.
And then Robert Kraft getting busted again in a freaking massage parlor. Like, oh my God, y'all need to chill. And I'm sorry, Tom Brady left for a reason. I tell you what, living in New England at that time was so frustrating. So frustrating.
And
But
like,
then again, I have to realize that was all they had for a little while because they were the worst. I still laugh my ass off that the Patriots got blown out in the 1984-85 Super Bowl. I laughed my ass off to that. I started to root for them a little bit when they played the Packers in the Super Bowl, and then when they won their very first Super Bowl with Tom Brady, I was annoyed by it because the Steelers lost to them. I would have liked Tom Brady a lot more if he wouldn't have played for the Patriots. Like, I rooted like hell for him when he was at Tampa Bay because I hated the Patriots. I swear, especially New Hampshire Patriot fans. This is what I don't understand. How the hell are you going to trash talk everything Massachusetts, but be die hard for the teams? That is so dumb.
listen. As I can answer this question as a New Englandite, and I'll say, it's because Massachusetts, out of like the entire New England, right? Massachusetts is like the hub. Massachusetts is like the
Damn
mini
right.
capital.
Dude,
Massachusetts is like the
is.
yeah, is like the mini capital. So when we can, it's just like it's different. It's a different dynamic because Pittsburgh and Philly are two different cities. But I would say people from Pittsburgh trash on Philly, right?
Honestly, a lot of the times we don't really think about Philly.
Right.
Philly is
Yeah.
on the other side of the state. We don't have much of a rivalry with them because they're in the NFC. But
Yeah.
when we
Yeah.
play
Yeah.
them, plus when we play them, it's different. Well, the thing was, Pittsburgh and Philly used to have a huge rivalry in baseball before they changed the divisions around. Our main Pittsburgh's main thing is with Cleveland
God,
and
I fucking hate the
Baltimore.
Browns. I hate the
So
Browns
what?
so much.
It's Cleveland, it's Baltimore, and the
The
Bengals.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, the
Cincinnati,
Browns,
Cleveland, and Baltimore.
the Browns, the Bengals, and the Ravens. I don't mind.
Those are the
I don't
ones.
mind the Ravens only because they have Lamar Jackson. Hate the Browns. Hate the Browns.
You will hate Baltimore and you will be happy for the privilege.
I
No, for
hate the
real though.
Browns.
Lamar
Hate the
Jackson,
Bengals.
I like Lamar Jackson. I hate the rest of the team. Now when it comes to hockey, it's the Capitals, it's the Islanders, and the Rangers. And then I think kind of the Bruins.
A little
Technically,
bit.
we did steal the Bruins colors.
We did. I'll give you that. But like one of the reasons I when I picked my sports teams, I would say about a year ago when I started getting like into it. Part of it
It's
part of
only
it
within
was
the last year
where
that you sports.
part of it was where I came from. Well, where my dad came from more like and the colors. Now the New England teams. I don't like the Celtics. I'm sorry. I like the Bulls because
Damn right you like the Bulls.
green and white. Listen,
He said, "All right, I don't like your pot of gold."
yeah, exactly. Green and white. Okay,
Not a fan.
blue and red, navy and red. You're getting there. Black and gold. Oh my God, butter. Except for those white and gold jerseys that they've had that one season.
Oh
Those are trash.
God! Oh,
But
ugh.
listen,
We don't talk. Those are like Bruno. We don't talk about
Yeah.
them.
Listen, to everybody out there at school, I like the Patriots. All right, I'll root for the Patriots. I'll root for the
If you must.
Bruins. I rooted for the Reds. I rooted for the Red Sox. But listen, there will always be there will always be a team above. There will always be a team above,
Yeah,
and
but the
those are the
Yankees.
Steel City teams. I'm sorry. It just has to be. It has to be that way. It was destined. It was written in the stars. I will edit in a baby picture right now, right here. Probably not, of me as a baby with a Pittsburgh Steelers onesie on. I probably won't
And
edit
that
it
was
in.
and that was one of the pictures that you threw a middle finger up. And I was so damn proud because someone there goes, well, why isn't he wearing the Patriots jersey, kid? And that was my opinion on it too. And I was like, because he's a Steeler fan.
Because I'm looking you in the eyes right now. It was written in
Oh,
the
it was.
stars.
Damn right it
It was
was.
written in the stars.
That's right.
You can't change fate. You can only rewrite it. That
And
kind of
that's just not
contradicted itself.
that absolutely contradicts itself. You can't change fate. You can only watch it be written.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Cause it was like there's a moment. Say what you will about Kanye. I love his music. There's a interview of him where he was like, I
I'm a
see
kid.
him, but he sure
I'm
as hell
a
sees me. And he's like,
Kanye was,
I don't know what that meant. I just thought it sounded cool, and that's
dude,
exactly
Kanye.
what that
So
was.
the way he said that sort of reminded me of the Scott Steiner math equation that he said in I think it was WCW. If
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
and it was just like I'm only. I was like, he said something like, I only have 3/3 of the brain that you have, or something. It's like, oh,
yeah.
but I'm not going to tell him that he cell phoned
Or
himself.
like,
But
I don't watch WNBA, but when Angel Reese says y'all make, it was like y'all make, uh, I don't, you all make this amount of time, y'all make this amount of money in a week. I make the same amount of money in 7 days. All right, buddy, you're not helping your case here. I'm sorry, you're not.
well, see, what irks me is that Angel Reese has gotten so much hate since she trash talked Caitlin Clark, and I think that she kind of takes it to another level because number one, it's one of those microaggression things again that we were talking about because you had an entire demographic of people trying to side with Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese beat her and wasn't humble about it. And it's a double standard because Caitlin Clark trash talks all the time, and people just couldn't handle it. It's the wanting to police black bodies and black voices and what's said. And it's not okay. Now, you get people like, well, I can't stand Jason Whitlock. If that man just disappeared off the face of existence, it wouldn't make me sad.
I'm gonna make my opinions on him clear. Who the hell is Jason Whitlock?
Exactly.
I don't know. I don't know who he is.
I kind of wish I never brought him up because I don't even want him in your atmosphere. He's an ignorant, bigoted piece of crap, and but people like him, and I think even Stephen A. Smith, tried to give Angel Reese a hard time. Bottom line is, people that hate on Angel Reese, they're just mad because she is actually successful at what she does. She's good at what she does. She plays her game. She's good at her game. Caitlin Clark is good at her game. Tell you what, if I were a little bit younger, Caitlin Clark would probably be your mom. She got a good game.
All right, that's.
I say that to say. I say that to say.
All right, I am
good
putting
at
my
what
foot
she
down.
does.
I'm putting my foot down.
She's great at what she does.
I'll turn this
And that's
podcast
all
around.
we leave it alone.
I will turn this
She's great at
podcast
what
around.
she does.
I'll turn this podcast around
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah, we'll go home.
I'm
We'll
putting
go.
my foot down. Anyways, like
The
I
bottom
said,
line
that's the bottom line because Bryan Tann said so.
Yeah, I did, didn't I?
Nah, that was me.
No.
Nah. But anyways, like I said before, I don't watch a lot of WNBA. That's just not my
No.
demographic.
It's not your thing. It's not your thing, and that's fine.
I
You've never
watch.
really been a basketball. I
Right.
remember one time I tried to get you shoot hoops. And you're like, I don't want to shoot hoops.
Oh, I'll shoot hoops with you this summer.
Oh,
This
you
coming
will?
summer, dude. I've been getting so much into basketball. I'm really good at.
Oh, yeah.
I would say I'm pretty good at like my handling and a little bit of my footwork. My shots are undesirable. I would say
Yeah,
are
I tell you
undesirable.
what. If I were taller, I'd probably be like Dennis Rodman was back in the day, just
Dude,
rebounding because I
Dennis
can't score for
Rodman,
crap.
what a guy! I
He
mean,
was my favorite. He was my favorite NBA player for a long time.
definitely. I would say Dennis Rodman's in my top 15 of all time. Just because like part of being the best basketball player is not just your ability to play ball. It's
You got to be able
your
to do the little
you
things.
got it, the little things and the fact that he went up to I forget his name. He went up to the Bulls coach at the time and he's like, "Yo, I need a vacation."
Phil Jackson.
Disappeared for 2
Phil
days.
Jackson,
Yeah.
yeah, was
Disappeared for
gone
two
for two
days
days and came back.
partying, drinking, doing all this stuff, came back and got the job done. Now
Well,
that,
no. Well, what's great too is that Dennis Rodman was a 6'6" power forward. They said he was 6'8". He was 6'6",
yeah,
maybe about 220. Not a big guy, but I mean he's getting it done against guys 6'8", 6'9", 6'10", 7 foot like it's nothing. And he always played mind games. He got into your head. I still remember when the Bulls played the Seattle Supersonics. That's the team that the Oklahoma City Thunder used to be. And there was a guy that I think he played center for them. The guy's name was Frank Brakowski. Frank Brakowski was really good on the boards, good defensive player. And Dennis Rodman got into his head so bad. It was I almost felt bad for him. You know that Simpsons gif where the little kid's like, stop, he's already dead.
yeah.
It was kind of like that. Like you felt
He's
bad
like,
for
come
him.
on, dude. He's already down. He's already beaten. Why you
Right.
keep doing this?
Like there was at one point, Dennis is standing there and almost laughing because he knows he's in Frank Brakowski's head.
Yeah,
And Frank Brakowski, he can't do anything but react. Like it was amazing to see.
like that's why
Um,
there's a reason why I like the Bulls, and it's not only because we have family in Chicago. It's because of
that's
the
the
'90s
past.
era
Yeah,
Bulls.
the 90s teams.
The
Yeah,
90
man,
the
the
'90s
90s teams
team,
were great.
that Scottie Pippen, Michael Jordan, Dennis Rodman, just
Well,
those three.
Well, it wasn't even just the great thing about that team is that it wasn't like, yeah, they were the big three, but then you had Luke Longley playing center, Tony Kukoc coming off the bench. Tony Kukoc, who they called him the European Michael Jordan because of the way he scored. But what was funny is that when the Bulls drafted him, they drafted him in I think it was 1992.
Sounds about
And
right.
that was the year of the Dream Team. And that was the first year that professional players played in the Olympics. Jordan and Pippen took him being drafted by the Bulls so personally that they made him look like a fool
And I
on
took
the
that
Olympic stage.
that
And he took it personal.
that
And he
that
took it
gif
personal.
of Michael Jordan, and I took that
He took
personally.
it personal.
Applied to his
Yeah.
entire career, I would say. Listen, LeBron
Mhm.
James, I am putting my foot down right now on this podcast. If anybody catches themselves saying LeBron James is the greatest player of all time, kicked off the podcast.
Listen,
This is a joke. LeBron James is a
anybody,
good player.
listen, this is not a joke. Anyone that tries to tell me that LeBron James is better than Michael Jordan, you instantly have lost all credibility with me because he's not a better player.
Michael Jordan, LeBron James. Not saying he's a bad player. I'm
But
just
he's not
saying
MJ.
it's a different game. It was a
It's a much
different.
different game.
It's a.
Guys had to be stronger mentally. They had to be much stronger mentally. You couldn't get away with flopping. You couldn't get away with like begging for calls and getting mad for not getting calls. You wouldn't get away with that. You would not get away with that. And every time I'll see every now and again, folks will say, "Well, who's your all-time starting five NBA players?" At
Who's
point
your top
guard,
five?
yeah, this is my starting five all time. Point guard, Magic Johnson. just for his size, his skill, his talent, his being a facilitator alone.
And he's the man.
Yeah, Michael Jordan at the two guard for obvious reasons. And then I would actually do, and it might be controversial, I would do Larry Bird at the small forward because
Yeah,
Larry Bird just did things that so many
different.
people he was just a different player.
He was different breed.
Yep, absolutely. Power forward, Tim Duncan, the big fundamental. And then at center, a lot of folks would probably be looking for me to say Shaquille O'Neal, and I would want to, but honestly, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar in his prime was just amazing. You realize that they actually had rules in college basketball against dunking because of Kareem Abdul-Jabbar?
Yeah.
When they have to change rules based on the way you play, that's a big deal.
That's
now, granted, Shaq was good too, but the thing is that Shaq has even admitted it. He got very, very lazy. Kareem, all gas, no breaks. Now, Shaq would be on the bench. He'd be the first center coming off the bench. Kobe Bryant would be in to take over the 2 or the 3 spot. I'd be willing to put Steph Curry as the backup point. I would put Dennis Rodman coming off the bench at power forward. And I'd probably put Scottie Pippen and LeBron James to round out the bench as well. And I think I'd probably meet one other person. I'd probably do because he's a similar player, I'd put Draymond Green just because Draymond Green and Dennis Rodman are almost the same type of player.
Now, I would say I don't know a lot about basketball. I don't know a lot. I would definitely have to play. I know it doesn't completely apply, but I would have to play a lot more 2K to kind of understand.
If you must.
Yeah, that stuff. Because, but I can say who I'd want on a team. Like, who I would want on a team lined up.
Okay.
Michael Jordan, obviously. Larry Bird. Dennis Rodman. Because, you have to have, I would say, especially when it comes to the 90s Dream Team, you have to have at least 2 of them on the same because of the synergy they have. Because of the fact that they all meticulously work together. Michael Jordan's an amazing player just by himself. Scottie Pippen's an amazing player just by himself. Dennis Rodman's just an amazing player just by himself. But together, there's a reason they're called the Dream Team, and that's when they're together.
Absolutely.
And that's when they're together. That synergy.
Absolutely.
I would definitely have Larry Bird on there. It's definitely, I agree with you with the Kareem, but I would definitely say that he's tied with Shaq. I would say on my center.
That's fine. And that's fine. That's totally fine. I mean, honestly, there's even an argument to be made for Wilt Chamberlain. Now, Wilt Chamberlain played before I was born. I think Wilt Chamberlain retired before I was born.
Yeah, all these guys played before I was born. But
absolutely, all these guys played before you were born. You didn't show up until 09.
I'd say that Magic definitely belongs on that list. Kobe, these are all players that belong on.
If I had to switch Larry Bird out, I'd switch him out for Kobe. I'd put Kobe at the small forward. I'd put him at the wing. Why not?
Because
why not?
I would say that Kobe and Larry Bird, they both get the job done in different ways. Larry Bird was had not in a partying sense, but in a getting people's heads Dennis Rodman type. Dennis Rodman and Larry Bird, I would say, got in people's heads like no other in a trash talking way. Kobe got in people's heads.
Kobe outworked everybody.
Because there's a reason why he has a mentality named after him. And it's because he outworked everybody. He put in the work to make sure people cemented his legacy. Because there's a difference between a trash talking getting people's heads, the Conor McGregors, versus the Mike Tysons. The Floyd was a pretty big
Floyd ran his mouth. Floyd ran his mouth. Early Mike Tyson didn't have to say a word.
Right. Early Mike Tyson, I would say George Foreman also yapped his mouth a bit, but he was definitely, there's a reason they called him Big George Foreman. He didn't.
George didn't talk near as much as Ali did.
Sonny Liston. Sonny Liston. Sonny Liston and Kobe. Sonny Liston, Kobe, early Mike Tyson. Those are all people that they didn't have to utter a word for you to feel their presence. For you to get in somebody's head are two completely different things. You can be cool, calm, collected, and let your actions do the talking, or you can let your mouth do the talking, but you have to back it up with your actions. They're two completely different things, but they both get the job done.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
That's why there's a lot of synergy between those two styles, but they're two completely opposite styles from one another. And MMA,
in a lot of ways, yes. Yeah. In a lot of ways, yes.
In the MMA, you have like the Chael Sonnens, you have the Conor McGregors, and then you have the other side. You have the Alex Poatan Ferreiras. You have, I would say, Francis Ngannou didn't do a lot of trash talking. He kind of just, he went in there, got the job done.
He let his fist do his talking.
Exactly. And it's like
even Kamaru Usman was the same way. Kamaru Usman didn't do a lot of trash talking.
Right. And
not that much.
And like
especially in his series with Kobe Covington, which nothing made me happier to see him get his face broken.
Dude, and that's the whole thing is that and that's what I like about the podcast is that I can figure out how to find ways to tie things into what I want to talk about. When I said I know what I want to talk about next, I knew it was going to be combat sports the entire time. I just found a way to tie it all together. Kamaru Usman.
It took you long enough to get there.
Yeah. I just have to just give me some time. Kamaru Usman was amazing. He was not, sorry, I'm not going to say is amazing. He's still an active fighter. The only thing is that people write him off because of the fact that he had a few bad losses. He was on track to be the best welterweight of all time. He was on track to beating Georges St. Pierre and everybody. Just title wins and just like that run, that resume of fighters that he beat was unmatched. The only thing is that go ahead.
A lot of the times in combat sports, or even in boxing sometimes, any sort of combat sport, once it takes them figuring you out, plus there's always that one particular loss that you take and you're just never the same.
You're never the same. You're completely different. And then there's also immediate... Sorry, go ahead.
No, it's kind of like, when I started suffering my concussions, sometimes I would get a little bit gun shy because I may not go into the fight thinking I'm going to get hurt, but it was always in the back of my mind that, I took a bad hit. When I was younger, when I was like your age and like a little bit younger, I would lead with my head. I would let people, I remember one time I was in a fight and this dude went to go through a punch and I just dropped my hands and I let him punch me in the head and he almost shattered his hand. And I just started wailing on him. Then as I started getting older, because I started taking more hits to the head, it changed. You know what I mean? After a while, it catches up to you, and it does. And especially when that's your living, you're fighting and UFC. Now, the thing is with MMA, you fight a couple of times a year. Boxing, I think the most you would fight in a year, maybe twice, maybe.
Now it's
and that was rare.
Right now,
it was rare.
You're like modern day boxing, if you're getting up, they'll give you more fights. But if you're a championship fighter, you're fighting once a year, if that.
Yeah, and what's weird is that's a lot of punches to take.
A lot.
It's a lot of punches to take,
especially when you get older. You just don't. Yeah. You don't have it in you anymore.
I can't fight I think that's why I don't watch combat sports anymore, because I miss it. I miss the competition. I didn't like getting punched. I don't think anybody likes getting punched, but it's part of the game. And I'll tell you what, I miss it. I miss the competition. I miss throwing hands. I miss, as much as I never like to hurt somebody, I loved the feeling that I could just beat somebody. I like
Dismantle and piece them up.
it. And now, and I think with Usman, yeah, he's had a couple of bad fights, but I mean, you look at all the fighting that he's done, building up his reputation to winning the belt, defending the belt. That's a lot of damage. I mean, Anderson Silva, that's why he started losing the way he did. He just wasn't the same guy.
Exactly. And the thing is,
Father Time is undefeated.
right. And the thing is with Kamaru Usman, one of the things that holds him back now, I say I have bad knees, and I have bad knees in a medical way. I have beat up my knees to the point where I'm
And that's
learning,
way early.
yeah, and
That's
I'm
really,
learning how to rehabilitate them so I ignore them when I'm on the mat when I'm wrestling, but I'm rehabilitating them and learning how to take care of them so I don't have the same problems, because they're not bad, but I can foresee in 5, 10, 15, 20 years them getting
see,
progressively worse,
so you're too young for that. But
significantly worse.
it happens. It happens.
Kamaru Usman practically has no knees. It's so bad. Like to
Oh
the
wow, I
point.
did not know. I didn't know that he and I shared a birthday.
Oh, really?
He's the same age as your Uncle Leonard.
Really?
Yeah, he's born a month and a day after your uncle. I'm a month a day and 8 years older than your uncle. So yeah, Kamaru Usman and I have the same birthday, May 11th. Only he's born in 1987,
That's awesome.
and he's 38 years old. So yeah,
Yeah,
I think
he's at that
it's
point.
time for it's time for him to start wrapping it up. It
Right.
really is.
Like the thing is with his knees, right? It's gotten bad to the point. I was watching an interview where Daniel Cormier went on the Joe Rogan's MMA show because he has like a little offshoot, and they were talking about Kamaru Usman and how his knees are so bad that he walks down the stairs backwards to relieve pressure, and to the point where he can't walk on pavement anymore. If there's like a sidewalk, he'll walk on the grass because it's easier on his knees, and it's just
Daniel
one of those.
Cormier.
Yeah,
So,
DC. Yeah, Daniel Cormier. And
oh wow.
it's just one of those things where it's like it's sad to hear, but you also have to realize, especially when I consider that as one of my potential like career choices, you have to take that kind of stuff into account. You have to take into account the beatings that you get, not just like mentally, like in here is always going to be, I would say, in your brain is always going to be worse than external injuries only because the brain can't be healed. Like you can't, like once you do damage to the brain, unless they find out new research on how to like help it or slow its decline. If you have bad knees, you can always get new knees even though they're not going to be as well. You can get stem cell therapy, all that stuff. If you have CTE, it's going
That's
to be that's it. You
It's
will
not
have
going
it will
away.
be a slope down. And you see that with combat athletes like Chris Benoit is probably the best example of that.
The worst, well,
It's
worst
the
example.
worst. Sorry, the worst example, but the best example of my point
Yeah,
is Chris
absolutely.
Benoit,
I
which
mean, right now, look at Antonio Brown.
yeah,
He's
he's in
taking so
jail
many
now.
shots. Yeah, he just had to turn himself in. He was extradited from Dubai. I'll
What did
tell
he
you
do?
what, a lot of attempted murder, pull a
Yeah,
gun on somebody. I'll tell you what, in a lot of ways, I'm waiting for my time. I'm waiting on it.
and
It just hasn't hit yet.
right.
Not like that.
That's what I'm
But
afraid
that's
about
also why
because
I've slowed down. That's why I've slowed down.
is like that's something I've also inherited from you. Not the actual brain damage itself, but the desire to do things that could potentially get you injured, like that. Like I look at myself. I'm 16 and I have 4 concussions, and every time I get a new concussion, it's just more. I can get. I'm more susceptible to a concussion every time I get one.
Which is why you don't. That's why when you said, "Oh, I want to fight MMA," no, you don't. No, please don't. I'll support you either way. I'll support you, but damn it, no, 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 no.
and it's just one of those things
Once you
where
get once you get that once you get hit, once you get popped in your head the right way, it just changes.
and it's just one of those things where I'm not saying I'm destined to it. I feel like I'm at the
You want
point where
to,
I
you're
can.
curious. You
Right.
want to try. And I
I
get it.
and I'm definitely for, like, that's one of the career paths I have open, but I look at my brain and how, like, I don't really tell the difference
Hmm.
between me
You pull it out and
before
inspect it.
what.
You said you look at your brain, so you take it out and you inspect it.
Yeah, yeah,
Look at all the
exactly.
wrinkles.
I
Good
look
for you.
at myself and the timing that I got my concussions at is, it's at an odd point because there's not really, I don't remember a time without it, like without the brain, like, injuries, but I can definitely feel there's a
Mhm.
difference, even if it's just like a little
It's
bit
hard.
of brain fog every now and again, even if it's just a little bit of brain fog, or like my motor skills are just fine, but it's more not being able to articulate certain things or certain things that I'm feeling, or to remember something that I want desperately to remember. It's just those things that it's not frequent, but there's certain times
Mhm.
where I'm like, especially on this show,
It's an every now and again
it's
thing.
an
It
every now and
happens.
again thing where I'm like, I'm really trying to remember what I was trying to say, or I'm really trying to remember this point that I was going to make, but I just can't. And I'm like used to it because of the timing that it happened to me at, where it's just that's how I developed with my brain with that. But I can feel a difference.
I hear you. I've been there. I'll tell you. It gets to a point, and I'll sort of just say like this. You want to make sure you're taking good care of yourselves because when you're young, and I say this because I was there, you think that you're untouchable. You think you're invincible. And when you're young, you are. But the problem is that all that shit catches up to you. One day you're going to be 30, 40, 45, 46. It catches up to you. Do what you feel your calling is, but make sure you have an exit strategy. See, if I had my way, I wouldn't let you go anywhere near a combat fighting, like wrestle, absolutely, but not anywhere into combat stuff. And then it'll be like, look, go to trade school, get a trade, do amazing, make a life for yourself because AI ain't stealing the trades yet. And live happily ever after because it really sucks. Now, whenever you compete for yourself, it's amazing. But when people are cheering you on, you feel untouchable. But at the end of the day, those people that were cheering you on, those cheers end up just being memories and they can fade because those people aren't there with you when you're dealing with the brain fog,
Right.
when you're getting angry or frustrated and you know in your heart of hearts that it's unreasonable, but you can't stop because you're just going. Like Jacob Fatu says, all gas, no brakes. You know what I mean? You know what I mean?
It's one of those
So
things like with the brain damage, like with Chris Benoit. A lot of people that are watching this probably won't know what he did. I'm not going to go into a crazy amount of detail, but
don't give it any sort of, just know that when they looked at his brain, he had the brain of an 85-year-old Alzheimer's patient. That was what the doctor said.
yeah,
His brain was that addled.
he did and some unimaginable things. I'll say he did some unimaginable things to himself and his family. And I will say, if you want to know more about it, that's something that you can
Search the
research out of
thing.
it. That's you. I will say that he did unimaginable things to himself and his family, and that's all I'll say. Chris Benoit was an amazing WWE
Raised an
wrestler. Was
amazing
an amazing
athlete,
professional wrestler. Amazing athlete, and it's a
but
tragedy.
unfortunately, the head injuries and whatnot. I would love to believe that the head injuries turned him into someone he didn't want to be. Now, I didn't know him. and I want to be respectful of those
Did.
that knew him and his family. And I'll leave it at that. I'll just leave it at
It's
that.
one of those things where when I consider, like, when you consider, and I'm saying this as somebody who's considering it, going into a sport like this, like a combat sport, you can't pay attention to just the glory. You
Gotta be
can't.
ready. Gotta be ready. You gotta have an
Because
exit strategy.
one, you have to have an extra strategy, and two, you have to acknowledge the fact that one of these days something's gonna happen to you, and it's gonna be like irreversible. There will be a time where you get hurt, and like if you break, say you broke your leg in a fight, completely broken, completely shattered. It heals all the way, but it's not fully healed. You have to be prepared, or like you cannot use it to its full extent again. You have to be
You're
prepared for
not gonna
something like
quite be
that.
the same. You're not gonna quite be the same again. It's just not.
Exactly. There's things that change with you as you go. Like you'll evolve, and as you evolve, you'll go up. But say you're a professional MMA fighter, you've just become champion. Say you're undefeated, or say you have, say your record's like 17-3. You've lost three. One of these days, you'll be on your high horse. Maybe you'll get 18, 19, 20, 21. But one of these days afterwards, it's going to be 4, 5, 6, 7 losses. And maybe at that sixth loss, maybe at the sixth loss, you get knocked out real nasty. You recover from the concussion, you do all that stuff, but you're trying to do something simple like file taxes or hanging out with your kids, and something just feels different.
Yeah.
And it connects to that brain injury, and you just got to realize, like, you have to hang up the gloves.
Yep. Absolutely. That's what I learned. I learned it the hard way. You
And
know. But I mean, at the end of the day, a lot of you guys, a lot of you youngins, you young men, you young women, you've got the whole world ahead of you. Don't. And I'm going to end with this because it's been a long day.
yeah,
I've been going for
so
since
yeah,
early.
it's the longest podcast.
I'm
Yeah,
gonna leave you guys with this. Um, be mindful of your opportunities and make the most of them because you're worth taking a chance on. Because one day, the opportunities that you don't take today, one day are going to be those things where you look back on and be like, man, I wonder what would have happened if.
you
You know
don't
what I
want to
mean?
be left with ifs.
No. And hey, you got a great platform here. I'm so proud of you. You're doing an amazing job. Keep it up. And I promise next time I do this with you, I'm not going to make any sort of comments about athletes that I do respect. It was an offhand, flippant remark. I have the utmost respect for that
It's all
that
right. All right,
young
Dad. Thank you for coming on the podcast. Is there any like
yeah,
name
yeah,
your socials?
yeah, sure. Just hit me up at author Brian Tan on the socials, Blue Sky, Instagram, Facebook. You can also catch my shows, Saving a Seat and Working the Indies on the Go Indie Now network. Just go to your YouTube machine, put in Go Indie Now, all one word. It'll come up. Right now, the latest episode of let me take a look at it. Let me take a look at it. The latest episode of our Saving a Seat with myself and Joe Compton. Let me see. Go. I have to put this in here because I had it memorized and then I forgot. It's our Saving a Seat episode. It's our 10th episode. Saving a Seat is where we review indie films. This time we interviewed crap, I can't remember what that one's in. One of the movies is called Monsters Within. And we also sort of did a compare and contrast of the original 1984 Toxic Avenger and the 2025 remake of the Toxic Avenger. And so yeah, definitely check that episode out. It just dropped today. And yeah, check it out. Enjoy. If you're an indie, if you're interested in film, if you're interested in wrestling, if you're interested in music, writing, whatever, definitely check out Go Indie Now, where you'll definitely get some awesome lessons on just getting into indie stuff, or just indie platforms as a whole, because it's always time to go indie now.
All right, Dad. I appreciate you coming on the podcast.
No
It was an
problem,
amazing
kiddo. Thanks
episode.
for having me.
All right.
All right, I'm gonna be an old man now and go to bed
All right. Good night,
because I'm
Dad.
tired. Good night,
Good
son. I
night.
love
I
you.
love you too.
Great job. Great pod.
Appreciate it. Have a good one.
Mm-hmm.
And that was my dad, everybody. If you're seeing this 2 hours and 10 minutes in, holy cow, you are a ride or die. And I just want to say thank you. The podcast is catching on a lot of traction. I think we total out at like 25 total followers, and like I got like 2.3 thousand views on YouTube. Granted, that's clips, but that's still huge. That's still huge, and I just want to say, if you're still watching this, and even if you just chimed in for a few minutes, I would like to say a thank you, and it means the world to me. This has been that was my dad. Longest podcast yet, by the way. Felt like I had a lot of good things to say, and I'll definitely have him on again at some point. But anyways, I also have to go play Helldivers, and do some other stuff. But anyways, thank you for watching. This has been your host, Bryan Tann. I appreciate you watching. I'll see you guys in the next one. It'll stop recording.